Well. Welcome to the Crofty Rogues. Yes, you heard that right. Normally, it's the Crofty Rogues. My name is John Cosgrove. I'm from Ireland, the land of culture, rolling green hills, pints of Guinness, great whiskey, and a Celtic nation. The man next to me, he's not. He is not from any Celtic nation. He's from somewhere else.
Well, my name's Stephen Quinn. I'm from Australia, but my last name is Quinn, which you'd have to admit is a Celtic name.
It is.
And I feel quite Celtic at the moment because I am dressed in my Harris tweed from the Outer Hebrides of Scotland.
And I've got a big woolly jumper on.
This is legit. This is proper Harris tweed.
And you didn't get it just for this, did you?
Not as far as you know.
Wow. Well, looks to me like this show is a little bit interwoven.
Oh, I see what you've done there. Because what we're about to do is have a quick review of the first episode of Men In Kilts. Sam and Graham from Outlander, travelling around Scotland in a van, absorbing...
An Outlander.
Not an Outlander, absorbing all the culture. The first episode, which we are about to review, was such a blessing for us because it was about food and drink.
Two things we love.
Did you like it?
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. What I liked is one of the men was kind of bald with a beard and the other man was good looking without a beard. It's like they got us mixed up.
Point of order. I'm not bald. This is a choice.
I would like to point out that we are not Men in Kilts. We're Crofty Rogues, and we're going to talk about Men in Kilts. Now, they opened the show
Yes.
by saying Scotland was like beautiful, historic, all the stuff we know. We heard all that in movies like Braveheart, but it was all interwoven together like tartan.
See what they did there? And there were various tartans on show throughout the episode. You know a great place to get tartans? The Celtic Croft.
It's like Celtic
See the
Croft.
plug there? You see that?
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah. Well, the first place they went to was Edinburgh.
Do you know what I found interesting about that? They had a meal at Tom Kitchen's restaurant. Now, what a perfect name for a guy who's a chef, Tom Kitchen. And I gave this a bit of thought. Your perfect name in that universe is John Pub.
It would be, wouldn't it?
That'd work.
Well, that would be great. So they were eating my favourite type of food, which is seafood.
Yes.
They weren't eating haggis, which
No.
you would have expected them to, because we learned that
But
is the national dish of Scotland.
But I'm sure we'll get to that later in the series.
We will?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I guarantee you at some point a haggis is going to pop up. I hope.
Haggis is popping up on Men in Kilts. But in the meantime, what popped up was this scallop. And I had just made scallops because the weekend that Men in Kilts came out was Valentine's weekend. And I, being the sort of French level romantic that I am, part of France is also Celtic, I bought some scallops. Nothing like the ones that showed up in Tom's kitchen.
Slightly different.
And I'd never cooked them before, and I was inspired by Men in Kilts. Unfortunately, that inspiration did not transfer to my kitchen.
Well, they had a fabulous meal with Tom Kitchen, and then they moved on to Fife.
East Fife?
You just doing soccer team names
Yes.
now? East Fife 454.
When you grew up where I grew up, you learned geography through football, through soccer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd never know where Ipswich was.
No, or would never need to.
Or Fife.
East Fife, as you mentioned. And they went out on a fishing boat called the Charisma. And the captain of the boat,
You couldn't make this up.
his first name was Kirk, which of course made him Captain Kirk.
Now, you may not know this, but Kirk is a real Scottish name.
No, I know.
Yeah.
No.
But so it's not that unusual that he was Kirk. It was impressive that he was a captain. And of course, he did the whole made it so joke.
Yes, so Sam and Graham go out on the fishing boat with Captain Kirk, and they come back with their catch, and Tony Singh, celebrity chef...
What a legend.
What a character.
A legend.
He cooks them their food just on the seashore, and it's a great bit. Boys are clearly loving it.
Yes.
They're absolutely
It
loving
was very tasty looking.
Well, it's food. I'll tell you what I really did like, before we get into more specifics of the episode. The relationship between the two of them. They're clearly, obviously, they work together on Outlander, but they're clearly getting along.
Yes.
I mean, they play uncle and nephew in the series,
I didn't know that.
but they've got a nice banter going. And as I said to you when we spoke about it off air, the production values on the show are fantastic. It looks gorgeous.
Those shots overhead, and how they got so many shots without rain, that was impressive.
It is the first episode. It's a postcard to Scotland.
It is.
Because it's just absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Absolutely. So then they go from Fife out to the Isle of
Islay.
which is famous for its peaty bogs. Long before it was, I don't know what other kind of bogs there are, except for peaty bogs.
Actually, it is. You normally only hear the word bog after peaty.
Now, I, as you may know,
You have experience.
I grew up surrounded by bog. The county of Fermanagh, where I'm from, is known for its bogs. And let me tell you, I may look young, but I spent a fair chunk of my youth in bog cutting peat. And it wasn't to dry barley, malted barley to make whiskey. It was to warm my arse. And let me tell you,
That's a technical term.
my grandfather, who used the same spade that they used, he didn't put the old horn on the top, but he used a turf spade, as he called it. He said the great thing about cutting turf is it warms you twice. Once when you're digging it out, and the next time when you're warming your arse by the fire. And the other thing I learned, and they brought this up in the show, the first 2 feet of peat that you bring, it's very, very smoky. It's kind of woolly, it's kind of spongy. I remember well, the deeper down you go, the more coal-like, the more thick black clay. And that was the goal for us growing up for peat for the fire. But for the Scottish boys, for the distillery, they wanted that spongy peat because it got really smoky, and that's why.
And they were at the Lafroig distillery, and they went out in the peat bogs and, made a bit of a show.
They were dressed in their little fancy dress.
Oh, Sam had on the sleeveless version of this kind of thing, because I'm a bit of a Harris Tweed connoisseur now, and I spotted it and I went, that's Harris Tweed without sleeves.
As opposed to Tweed Matuidi, who plays for France, another football reference for those of you watching.
I think you're talking about Blaise Matuidi, but I got the point. Anyway, they dig a bit of peat, they go back, they have themselves some Lafroig whiskey, and they are clearly they have the first sip, and there's about 5 seconds of silence.
That's when you can tell. So that, normally these celebrities, when they try something in the future, oh, that's fantastic, oh, that's great. The silence confirmed to me that they were enjoying it.
There are over 100 whiskey distilleries active in Scotland. It's the 5th largest export, I think, in the United Kingdom, and about 40 bottles a second are exported around the world.
There's 80 bottles
There's
right there.
80 bottles right there.
I'd rather be exporting whiskey than working in that bog.
So, they go to Edinburgh, they eat food. They go to Fife, they go fishing and eat food. And then they go to Islay and they drink Lafroig whiskey. And they're spent by the end of the show. They're having a wonderful time. They drive off in the van, and the tartan ethos comes back into it again. As I said, if you want tartan, if you want anything you see on this show, and even in Outlander, go to Celtic Croft, go to the website, kiltsandstuff.com. It's all there.
Well, there was the Stuart Royal blanket that was featured in the van. So if you're going to deck out your van and drive around Scotland, some would say the Stuart Royal is the way to go.
I believe Stuart Royal played left fullback for East Fife for many years. It was a quality player.
Now, we also think, and I have to check on my notes on this, but Graham's tartan scarf is Douglas tartan, or as they like to say in Scotland, Douglas!
When you look down at your notes there, it should have been something like, here's one I prepared earlier.
Douglas tartan. So let's pretend that we're clipping this bit out. So anyway, Graham was there, and we think what he was wearing was a Douglas tartan scarf.
Because, we know our tartans.
Yes, we do.
And John said to me, I think that's a Douglas tartan.
Now, my favourite bit, because not only was Tony Singh a phenomenal cook and a personality, but he has his own tartan.
He does.
He has his own tartan.
It's his trademark.
Tony Singh, fantastic. To me, he was the 3rd biggest star of the show, behind Scotland and the whiskey. And as for the 2 lads, they're going to be back next week. They learned about the difference between prawns and lobsters and all that stuff. They'll be back in the van. I don't know do you know what they're going to be doing next week?
No, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, Men in Kilts. It's on Stars every Sunday night. And we're here because of Celtic Croft, and we are the Crofty Rogues.